Right. Peace. Peace all. Peace. Blessed love. Peace, Abba Cruz. Peace, Achot Kashia. Shabbat Shalom, fam. How's everyone doing? How was your strong? What did you accomplish? You know, um, what did you have left over? You know, that you're gonna tackle with renewed and reinvigorated strength after we go through our day of internal work. After our 6 days of external work. So here we are again in Shimanu, and we're dealing with family still, right? Yeah, where's Sister Deidre when you need her? Peace, peace, GPU, yeah. Yeah, so we're in family and we're dealing with the topic of family structures. And, give thanks, Sister Kashia. Peace, our Randy. Shabbat Shalom, the house of Bell. So, as we often do with our Shema readings, I'm going to go through a condensed version of the preface from the text that we're reading from, which of course is the Anu Way. Peace, Sovereign Eats, Sister Moksha. Um, my name is Precious. Okay, so so this book is not to be read only once. Very important. Read the words of this book of knowledge and wisdom out loud. Discuss the convictions of this work with your Anu brothers and sisters. Share this information with your people. This publication should be read daily. Also important. Every line in this book can be taken out of context and studied on the strength of its own potential. The truth is to be deliberated. Right. So we're continuing the family structure chapter, and tonight we're going to be dealing with the idea of desperate measures, right? Because we already spoke about, the sisters already spoke about desperate times, and Isaiah chapter 1, verse 1. Chapter 4, verse 1, sorry. And, peace, Imaniah, peace, Abba Haru. So I'll just do a brief recap. So Isaiah 4 and 1, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Peace, Nicole. Yeah, so what that verse was speaking about was a time where women they didn't have any difficulty acquiring material possessions, but they didn't have, headship. They didn't have a covering, and they were desperately seeking that covering, from men. And this is like one side of that scenario, because as we covered last strong, the man doesn't necessarily have to say yes. Chief had made the analogy that if it starts to rain, you don't care what kind of covering you find, you just don't want to get wet anymore. And it's a similar thing when you're dealing with women who don't have covering, who don't have headship, and who realize that I've been moving backwards this whole time. I've been trying to acquire things that would help me to be independent when I don't really want to be independent. It's not my nature. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the piece in Melquia. I'm going to read the paragraph that we're going to be discussing tonight. So this desperation that we were speaking about, this desperation will cause them to take hold of one man. This means that they will abandon their customary bashfulness and pursue men aggressively. Plurality should not be pursued out of desperation, but the union should be. Plurality is natural and is not the problem in a union. We know this from observing the dismal statistics of monogamous marriage around the world. When we lose sight of our righteousness and begin to disrespect another by conniving against their homestead, what we achieve is only temporary. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and that desperation could cause one to make decisions they may not naturally make. We are in those times. This is why the courtship process should be followed with exactness to preserve the divinity of all involved. Right? Please, Sister Deidre, talking about you. Yes, we still in family. Peace, Aki Isaiah. Uh, Peace, top tier speakers in Sequoia. Yeah, so one of the interesting things about Isaiah, if you read the book, it starts off with the Most High, like he's letting, it's like he's holding up a mirror to Israel, like this isn't the plan, you know, this isn't what you were supposed to be, but your hard headedness is leading you down a road where um, like you're destroying yourself. So, you know, a lot of people have this idea that the Most High is like this angry old white man with a long beard up in heaven throwing lightning bolts at people. You know, he's like, okay, I don't care for this person in particular today, so they're just gonna have a bad day. You know, we don't really. Sometimes we forget that we cause, you know, desperate times cause for desperate because of the principle of cause and effect on the side. So um, I'm just going to go over it quickly. You know, the first chapter, um, and these are verses 2 to 5, Isaiah. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord, and they have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. Why should ye be stricken any more? Ye will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart is faint. And peace, Aki Vermont. That verse was interesting to me because, with several reasons, but one of them was like, it reminded me of hard-headed children that are kind of really far gone. You know, some children just come up as jerks. Like, you gotta steer them away from it. But you can see some children, they turn out to be jerks because of what they realize they can get away with. You know, okay, I did this, I got, you know, small punishment, but it wasn't that bad. They say I did this, and it's like, okay, that one was kind of bad. Like, oh, that one made them really angry. I can't do that. So it's like, you know, what can I get away with, as opposed to, you know, because you're a child, you're trying to figure things out. So you're testing your boundaries with it. But what if you're like 22 years old and you're still testing boundaries, you know, or you're 50 years old and you're still infringing on boundaries because you never evolved past beyond that stage, you know, and this is what's happening. It's similar to what's happening with Israel. Like, they keep getting punished, not because the Most High is like angry with them to the point where he gets to the point where he delights in the suffering. Is like, you're doing this, like the law is there, and I'm telling you what not to do and what to do, and you keep messing it up. You know, you you keep doing the opposite of what I tell you. Like, the instructions are right there. I keep giving you the manual, and you keep throwing the manual away and messing it up, and then trying to MacGyver it. You know, in the Bahamas, our crews can tell you, we call that a bush mechanic. You know, the mechanic didn't necessarily receive any type of formal training. They sort of just learned through trial and error. And it's not like they can't get the vehicle to work, but their quick fixes are so temporary and so transient that your car's gonna be off the road in like 3-4 days. You know, it runs fine. It's like, see, I got it to work. That'll be $500. And you back in willfully someone else's shop, you know, a couple of days later because you wanted to get the cheaper price. But again, the testing boundaries, it's like, okay, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. Oh, I got the car to start. Okay, it's working. I fixed it. But you don't know what you did, you know. And it's pretty similar to what what you see with modern women these days as well. You know, I'm kind of getting some sort of dopamine high from what I'm doing, so it must be correct. You know, it doesn't matter how righteous or unrighteous I am, as long as I can push boundaries and get what I want. You know, the ends justify the means. You know, Chief says yes. Some youth have a natural leaning towards being disagreeable towards structure and righteousness. Yeah, yeah, I learned that growing up. Like I always hated disagreeable people. You know, and like in a misanthropic type of way. Not like, oh, and I know you shouldn't hate people. Like, no, I hated people who did that. It's like, I can't stand you. Stay away from me. You know, because I'm trying to chill and do what I'm doing. And you just came into the room with all your funkiness and you're just disturbing the peace. You know, like, slide out. Come from around me. Um, yeah, man. Yeah, Abu Cruz, they straight out the bush. TVS says short sightedness and ingratitude has always been the sleeping pill of Israel, right? And that's some of the things that the Most High is talking about with Israel here. He's like outlining, like, constantly, this is what you're doing wrong. Here's why you're doing it, and here's why you need to stop. And Israel listens for, like, 3 to 5 days, right? With their quick fix. And then next thing you know, they're on the side of the road again, you know, with their with their leg sticking from under their robe, with the thumb out, trying to catch a hitchhiker. But most I just letting them know, like, you can't get by on just being fly. It's sort of like that scared. It's a beyond scared straight clip. It's like a dissexual man in prison, or dissexual male in prison, and he's talking to one of the youth, and he was like, you need to be trying to get an education while you can get a chance, because I wound up in here, off of killing somebody, just because they approached me because of the way that I move, and he was like, you need to be trying to get your education now while you still can, and he just starts ripping into it, because your looks ain't gonna get you anywhere. They ain't gonna get you any money. Your hair's uneven. You look dusty. That's my favorite part. But yeah, like y'all really walking around here disheveled, like nobody loves you. And this is how the kingdom of Israel moved. It went through a phase of disobedience. They get punished for the disobedience. They start acting right, and as soon as it feels like the coast is clear, they start acting up again, over and over. Chief Yuya says the bushes are the wilderness. Those who stay in the wilderness too long become bewildered, losing direction and just wandering around, eating frogs and berries that can be made to feel like good living. Yeah, eating frogs and berries. He was the highlight of Scared Straight. Yeah, he did keep it on it. He did not pull any punches with it, and it wasn't. And that's another thing too. It wasn't. There are some times where you can't afford to pull punches. You can't afford to dance around people's feelings. Whoops, let's turn my device over. Yeah, not Chief Cruz, Abba Cruz says, even as Israelites today have to constantly be reminded why we need to get out of the bushes and come into the temple, right? And that's that wilderness Chief was speaking about. I was waiting on you at the door. Sister Deidre said, like, becoming comfortable in deception. Yeah, man. But I wanted to focus on one of the questions, and that question is, let me see, I'll type it in, Peace Cassie Derwin. It is fun to say. Yeah, so this is a question for the sisters, right? Because we're speaking about that desperation that causes them to basically take hold of one man, right? So how do you actively pursue that? If you're in a space, or how did you actively pursue that? Because typically your natural uh, like your baseline mode of attack is just to sit and wait. I'm just gonna put myself. It's like selling candy to children, and you just put all of the treats and colorful stuff at eye level, so it catches their eye. Mommy, mommy, I want one. Yeah, yeah, it's sort of like that. You just sit yourself within, um, within people's vision, and you just wait. Someone's gonna take the bait. It's like you go fishing, but you're the bait. And there are some times when you can't wait anymore. You may be going through a dry spell. You might have been going 3, 4, 5 months, maybe even years, and it's like no one's biting. So you're like, screw it. I'm just gonna approach someone, and finally say something. And that's what I wanted to know. What is your common strategy for even being direct enough to say, listen, I seen what you're doing around town. I like you, and I want you. I want to be a part of what it is that you're doing. How do you even go about doing it? Or how did you do it in the past? Yeah, so that's the question for sisters. Chief Yuya says comfortability and ignorance. The wilderness is a wild, meditative state, but we don't build as community in the wild, as survival will urge exodus. The wild is for solo and running from responsibility. Yeah, it really supports that lone. You can do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours. Yeah, yeah, that's like that lone wolf mentality, or like Sister Deidre brought up earlier, like being comfortable in ignorance. And I'd spoken about this during our previous Shabbat, where the person who self sabotages, they have a willful ignorance, or Chief said, aggressive ignorance. They want to be in a space where they can control their surroundings. And one of the easiest tactics, or the go-to tactics of those types of people is they isolate themselves. Or like, I'm the type of person who I don't like having a lot of people around me. I don't like having people going to disturb me, or when I'm talking. If I want to be around people, I'll go find out all kinds of silly answers because they want to stay isolated, right? They want to stay by themselves, and that's usually how you get got. Especially if you're moving in such willful ignorance that you're ignoring warning signs that even your environment is trying to give you. Sister Kashia says, I did not wait for men to come up to me. I went up to them, but it was in a masculine manner and trying to show I can do that too, thinking that was attractive. I was trying to be equal, not complementary. Yeah, yeah, that does happen sometimes. And sometimes um, it is really, it's not like an issue if you approach me first. Speaking personally, but I know a lot of men who like they don't mind it. But if you come at me from the wrong angle, then it's gonna be an issue. You trying to tell me if I can do it the easy way or the hard way. It's like, nah, you gotta humble yourself if you're gonna approach me. Think of how much humility, even though they try to, a lot of men try to, or males try to run a con game. Think of how much humility and how much vulnerability you need to approach someone, knowing that they're gonna say no. It gets easy over time. You kind of build calluses around the word no. And you learn to hear, as men, you learn to just accept, all right, whatever. You said no. It's not like, she don't want me. It's like, all right, no, it's not. Let me move on. And then you see him like 10 minutes later with a gorgeous sister on his arm. It's like, how you get that one? Yeah, he kept trying, you know, no, didn't stop him. But if you come at me like I can do that too, if men can approach women and women can approach men, like you're already off. I can feel it. You know, Sister DJ said I used to wait with the bait. How long did you wait? Bait equals yeah, makeup, weave, clothing, etc. Yeah, it's a form of enchantment, really, when you put those things on. How many of you like waited with bare face? Just went out and it's like, I'm gonna take care of myself, but I'm not gonna do all the makeup and the $10 dress. And you know, how many of you actually did it that way when you were waiting, or did you really depend on that date? The makeup, the weave, and the clothing, etc. Sister Kashia says, now within Anu, I know my positioning as a woman, I know my lane, and still do not mind putting in papers for an Anu brother, but this time as complimentary and in my feminine name. Alright, so it's not like Grand Theft Auto where you're pulling them out the car or trying to push them over into the passenger seat. Albert Cruz says, the wild animal looking to devour us only happens in the wild. Like Akizak said, are you going to come into a community where the goals are surrounding the laws of the Most High, or are you coming to show us what you think we need? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sister Kashia says, yeah, wait with the bait. Peace, Pump and Perfect. Peace, Sham the Joy. Da, 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 da. Okay, Emo Precious says, historically, I did not actively pursue men at all. Saw it as unladylike, um, but have learned the value in an honest assessment of my assets and deficits. Okay, okay. What would have been ladylike? You said what you didn't do, but what did you do? Um, Chief Yuya says facing rejection and furthering attempts take humility. Males are trained from young to deal with rejection. Without that, you can achieve nothing on this earth. Very true. Oh, okay. There's a sequel. All right. Answer part two. This is Emma Precious. With this knowledge, of approaching an Anuma with humility and desire towards serving his kingdom. I, how you doing that? Let's go, man. We need some verbs. Besides approaching. Um, Emo queer, I pursued men in an aggressive manner. Yeah, you one of them. Yeah. I like you and I won't. Yeah, but you used to drive strong on people. Okay, I got you. Um, Abba Cruz says the debate is heavy in these times. Everybody looks the same. These genetics are strong. Everybody hair is the same texture. They all have butterflies for eyelashes. Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's so strange because you're trying to look like something that honestly at this point it just inspires annoyance when you see it. But it's like I don't know. Maybe the women or the females that you're trying to emulate, they were ahead of the curve. Maybe they're onto something else and you're just behind on it. But honestly, all of that extra stuff, first of all, it's an unnecessary expense. Second, I don't want to wake up and be like, oh yeah, this is what she looks like. Yeah, I forgot. I don't want to be like that. You want to exactly, Sister Kashia. You're literally trying to look like a blow up doll. You're trying to sell your body, but meanwhile, the spirit or the soul, whatever soul you may have left, is taking the backseat. And I don't get to meet you until later. But right now, it's like I'm buying the magazine for the girl on the cover, but I don't necessarily feel like reading the articles inside. How much investment do you think I'm going to make in that, knowing that, excuse me, knowing that there's not necessarily that much of a return on that investment. Sister Sovereign each says, initially I did not approach men, but as I got older, I resorted to the skills and talents. I would go into food prep mode, or create items and gift them based on what I noticed they did not have. Okay, so Sister Moksha is a detective. All right, I got you. Detective Moksha. Okay, the Precious says, by putting in courtship papers, being helpful, and bringing all resources to the table with openness to be reshaped. Okay, all right. See the textbook answer. Okay. I'm just messing with the Precious. Chief Yuya says, Akuya is one of those hiding underwater, breathing through a straw, and then fly up in the air, shooting a bamboo blow dart tranquilizer. One of those lasso and taser sisters. Yeah. Don't see it till it's too late. Sister Moksha says it was still very passive, actually, because I was always fearful of rejection. I was also never upfront and selected poorly. Okay, so was it a case of just taking whoever would take the bait? Sister Moksha. Sister Imanaya says, I used to pursue men aggressively. I pulled them over on the highway and walked up on them in stores. I haven't pursued anyone since being in Anu, but it will be in a much more feminine manner. Yeah, so Imanaya, don't mind her being small. She's a linebacker. She'll just tackle you. Hey, you want to go out? Yeah, rough and stuff with the Afro puffs. Exactly, Albert Cruz. Emma Queer says, no, not anymore. Right. Change woman. Sister Kashia says, on a segment, Chief called for women to think about how many men we have lost in our life. I was impatient with that pursuit as well as aggressive, trying to rush a response or progress. Failed. Yeah, because Grand Theft Auto, hey, move over, let me drive. We need to go here. Yeah, that's some Navy SEAL stuff, Sister Boxer. You all don't seem like bashful sisters. Yeah, it's easy to be tough when you got a keyboard, and you're talking to a camera. Emma Precious says, yes, textbook answer, but true. Sister Kashia says, not my determination of the speed of the relationship. This is why a righteous courtship is so necessary. It is directed by the man, even if the woman puts in the papers. Teachers stand in your lane. Yeah, man. And again, the next sentence is, this means that they will abandon their customary bashfulness and pursue men aggressively. So, like our crew says, you all don't seem like bashful sisters. Well, think about it. This time that we're in, it doesn't really support that bashfulness. It also doesn't really support the aggressive. I don't even know what to call it. Like, I guess we would call it that feminism. That's the best word. But it's so strange because you're aggressively telling me to pursue you, which is strange. Chase me. You ain't gonna chase me. But if you're gonna chase me, you need to have this and that. Is like, no thanks. Imakuya says, I mean, I had some charm and was pretty flirty. I wasn't trying to body slam anyone. Yeah, not at first. Yeah, you get them right where you want them. You just suplex them. um, Sister Deidre says, I was bashful. That's why I would wait and bait, but there was no humility in that. Now my method of pursuit has to be humble with the realization that I am not controlling anything and I must be what is needed in his space. Yeah, because like I said, it's a weird thing that's happening now where you're trying to control the situation, but you're not taking any accountability for it. So it's this weird, like, you can't tell me what to do, but also, you know, I'll follow a man if he knows where he's going. So it's just, you don't want to go anywhere. That's the reality of it. You don't want to be. I'm not saying that to you, DJ, obviously, but yeah, you don't want to go anywhere. You're not trying to accomplish anything. You're just reveling in the foolishness, and your dopamine senses are going off like crazy, and you may um, just by the law of averages, you may run across one or two simpletons who are willing to buy into your BS. But how long is that going to last? You know, Sister Marxist says no selections were not haphazard. Oh no, selections were not haphazard or scattered, but I moved around uncovered and without a guide. Now I understand the value of the process of courtship inside of a cultured community, right? Um, Imoque says, but I see all the body slams wasn't necessarily needed at all. No, not all the body slams. All the aggressiveness wasn't needed at all. Yeah, because it's actually a turnoff. That aggressively pursuing men is an act of desperation. It's not necessarily what you should have been doing all along. But there's so much no, no, no. I don't know, no. What are your standards based off of? Do you even have standards, or do you even have culture? Or were all of your answers based on, or all of your rejections or acceptance of men based on what society was telling you, which was basically to create a consumer. Emma Precious says, sheesh, we were some bold women. I wasn't even making eye contact, just cracking jokes and gave smiles, but were never snatched up to no man. But within this culture, it's liberating. Mm. Our crew says, if you sisters are rejected the first time, will you keep on attempting or would you lose your footing? Hmm. Would you? uh, Sister Kashia says 50-50 chance for me, yes or no, even though I still had insecurities and feared not being chosen. But that is life. Sometimes you're not it. Humility, humility, humility. Yeah, yeah, man. But I'll keep going, but I'll leave Abba Cruz's question up. If your sisters are rejected the first time, would you keep on attempting or would you lose your footing? And by attempting, not like um, drugging and holding hostage, that type of attempting, but actually trying a different approach. Mm. So plurality should not be pursued out of desperation, but the union should be. You should be seeking to be in a union, because the actual process should be, for those who are practicing this culture, you're moving from under the covering of your father or your brothers, and under the cover skewed and distorted so much that we're getting certain elements of it, which makes it seem right, but we're not getting the fullness of it. It's similar to if you take one aspect of a plant, let's say, like cocoa leaf. You take an aspect of cocoa leaf, and which of course is what they make certain drug out of, right? Cocoa leaf, it was in Coca Cola. Like, those are the only two hits. But you take that cocoa leaf and you extract a certain enzyme or nutrient out of it, and then you saturate it as much as possible. You go through a chemical process, you have something now that if you ingest it, your body can't really synthesize it. Your body doesn't know what to do with it, so it goes on a high. It's something that your body feels is essential because it can't make it, so you're going out to pursue it. You form addictions like that. Same thing happens with candy or sugar. You have this one nutrient that's taken out of a matrix that balances it out, and you're um, focusing on it and magnifying it, and then you're giving it to someone who can't naturally synthesize that thing. So now you're addicted to something, that you shouldn't really be addicted to, but you're getting one aspect of it instead of the whole matrix of it, which that courtship provides. Because you're getting one aspect. Oh, he says nice things to me. Okay. Oh, he buys me stuff. I, you know, or even, oh, she's a freak in bed, you know. But what else is there to balance all of that stuff out? And do you even know what a healthy balance looks like? Or are you just going after what feels good? Are you just seeking your next dopamine hit? You know, okay. Drug the whole head. Okay, hold on, what's going on there? Our crew says pursue the Most High. The Most High then shows you an emanating principle of itself through a righteous mind. Ima Precious says Abu Cruz. Okay, this answer to Abu Cruz's question. If rejected, the shame of being uncovered, demise, I continue to pursue righteous covering with humility. All right, Ima Precious, that's a textbook answer. What did you do in the past if you wanted a man? You wanted someone, and he rejected you. What did you do back then before you knew about the shame of being uncovered? Yeah, Ima Precious, she running for governor. Yeah, drug and hold hostage. There was one movie about that. I can't remember the movie. The female was a big fan of this guy, and she basically tied him to the bed and abused him. Sister D. All right, there you go. That's a more honest answer. She would keep jiggling them doorknobs. All right, lava is hot. Floor is lava. All right. Sister Sham Joy says, I've always been awkward, still awkward, but try to get out of my head and be present. Imanaya says, I would inquire about the reason for rejection to see if it was something I needed to change, but I keep trying, not necessarily the same person. Right. How many of you have been pursued by the same person, like, for years? Same person, every time he sees you, he just like, all right, it's game time. Teacher says, here's some food, brother. Or you're tired now after eating. Lay down and rest. Go ahead, relax. Drug them hell hostage. Conscious sister style. Conscious sister style. Right. Here's some quinoa. Yeah. Oh, she pronounced it right? Yeah. She's a good sister. Imakuya says to Abu Cruz's question, I probably lick my wounds, but I'd also need to assess what is going on within myself as to why I was rejected. Iman, Soft Arlen. Peace, Soft Arlen. Abu Cruz says, your Jagna will still be preparing you for your journey into being received or rejected. Sister Shamna Joy says, rejection is something that showed my ego was way too big. Have to keep it moving. Emma Precious says, I didn't approach men. If they didn't want me, I didn't want them either. Oh, okay. He was a stonewaller. Yeah. Even if you did want him, you die with the lie. It's like, you catch me slipping. Yeah, man. So yeah, moving on. We know that plurality is natural, and plurality is not necessarily the problem, because we can see what happens with the statistics of monogamous marriages around the world. You know, it's like 50-50. Imagine if you get like one of your children gets held hostage, right, at gunpoint, and the the person who took him hostage is like heads or tails. You know, if you choose wrong, your children die. You taking that shot? You know, at that point, you don't really have a choice. But are you really gonna do that if someone's holding a rubber duck to their neck and it's like, "What you talking about heads or tails? No, I'll beat the snot out of you. You ain't taking my children." you know, but yeah, it's like that. It's like almost like 50-50 or 60-40. The percentage of marriages that are quote unquote successful, and that's just like marriages that didn't end in divorce, not marriages that were actually wholesome and complementary. It's just on paper they didn't fail. That's a scary statistic. Like, y'all know how I feel about marriage. I never liked it. So it's a bad deal to me. But yeah, you notice from observing that monogamous marriage, and is a question I also wanted to ask for the men, right? So, can you recall a time when you were aggressively or actively pursued? Yeah. So, can you recall a time when you were actively pursued? This is for the men. I know. When I was in junior high, there's there's this sister. She Everyone was scared of her, but she loved me. you know, because I was to myself and soft spoken, but I was always direct with her. And she was one of those where she would fight men and win. And she was good looking, but she was not to be messed with. Aries chick. and yeah, it was always interesting. Like, she was like, "Why not?" That was the whole thing. Like, why not be with me? It wasn't like, "Do you want to be with me?" It's like, "Why you ain't with me?" You know what I mean? And it was an interesting dynamic. But I was always to myself, so it wasn't like everyday rejection. It was more like every now and then she would be like, "Huh, yeah, why not?" Every now and then she would ask that question. Yeah, junior high, Albert Cruz. Um, yeah, but can you share any times where you would actively pursue it for the men? And I'm gonna keep going on with the next paragraph. And we're talking about plurality, right? And it being natural and not the problem. But the way I had always seen it is not the system that's messed up, but it's the people who are using the system. That's usually that where the fault is. Some systems were just designed to be messed up. Some of them were just designed to be like, we're gonna take advantage of these people. But it being messed up is like subjective. We take advantage of these people, we can feed our children. You know, or if these people take advantage of us, you know, it's messed up. And we're not gonna take it. But yeah, the system is neutral. It's the people who put it to use that determine, where the perspective is. So when we lose sight of our righteousness and begin to disrespect another by conniving against their homestead, what we achieve is only temporary. you know, and this is speaking to so many instances that I'd seen in media or even with in real life where people are like they're serious. You know, I like you and I want you, you know, and I'm gonna have you. And if I can't have you, I'm going to ruin your life. You know, if I can't have you, then um, righteously, then I'm gonna try and coerce you to, you know, sneak to the side and do a little dirt. You know, it don't have to be all that serious, but you know, you can come over and yeah, I'll cook you something. You know, we start sweet talking. Yeah, lay down, brother. You know, have some of this quinoa. Yeah. So yeah, story time, Sister Kishia. Um, I'm a good. Oh, you had a aggressive hide in the pond, sister. Okay. Yeah, actually, even impressive. It was like seventh grade up until graduation. Like she made it known, you know, I like you and I want you. But she didn't do the easy way or hard way thing. Um, Chief Yuya says, yes, I have been pursued and I'm actively being pursued now. I'm not into it. As a man, I know what I want. If I don't want you, there's nothing you can do to change that. Answer number two, part two. As a poly man, I may allow you to stay for something totally different than you pictured. Yeah, man. There's a empire to run. Yeah, yeah. You can come over. Yeah, she come over dressed all night. Yeah, I got some taxes on the table. You can take a crack at it. You know, I'll tell you, tell you if you qualify. um, Sister Deidre says, yes, because I'm waiting for the explanation of hiding the pond with Brother Cruz. Oh, the hiding the pond, you can ask him up here. She'll tell you all about it. Yeah, just scroll up. Um, Cruz, also one time I polished a pilot club style sister. She was on she was on some me stuff. You know, she did not take rejection well. Oh, okay. Yeah, she was on some high and mighty. You know, how you gonna say no to all of this? Aki Ramon says, yes, I remember being pursued by several women. Funny thing is, I didn't know I was being pursued until often years later, bumping back into them. Yeah, they come with that because you ain't seen them in so long. You know, they ain't got no, like, nothing to latch on to. Like, um, I saw your sister the other day. They ain't got none of that, so they just spring out the, you know, I always had a crush on you. Yeah, they try to see how it goes. That's how you'll shoot your shot. um, Prima Precious says, hide in the pond. That sounds scary, like you're being hunted. Was that attractive to you? Nah, it's not attractive. It's kind of creepy. Not kind of. It's creepy. You know, you walking by past the pond, and you know that's after a while. You know that bamboo stalk. Bamboo don't grow around here. um, let's see. Pilot Club staff. Is that like sister number three in Shahrazad's book? Um, oh, y'all need to read. Just scroll up and read Chief's Chief's comment, please. Yeah, it's right there in the chat. Um, but MGC said yes. It was not too long ago. She was desperate for the wrong reasons. It seemed that she was looking for a dopamine donor to suck the life out of. I avoided her like Mike Epstein. It's a water. Yeah, man. She's eating this ice cream cone, right? And there's a little bit on the side. I want a piece of it. It's the birthday of my life. Sister Kashia said, Imo queer bluffing. I don't know nothing of it. Yeah, right. Sister Kashia says, I've had some cringy moments in the past. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Librarian glasses gave it away. Albert Cruz says, if she was an Amazon, if she was an Amazon tribe type sister, it would have been a good quality being able to hold your breath long. She was she was a hide to kidnap me for herself type of sister. You know, I am they say I'm a demand, can't be away too long. What you saying? You're in demand, you know, flying off the shelf, have a cruise. Yeah, all them Amazonian sisters, they want to snoop snoop. Um, yeah, yeah. So I know there's a lot of y'all are interested in the part, but yeah, man, you have this climate now where there are lots of demands being made, and they're really just born out of laziness. I want a man to do this, or a man is supposed to do this, or a man like who cares what you want me to be? You know, I am what I am. What you need to be worried about is what you need to be in order to be around me. And if you're not trying to be around me, then stay from around me. It's not rocket science, but again, looking for that dopamine high. Some of them don't even want to be with anyone. They just want that validation. Think about how sick some of these homes are that we come from. How many deficits do we have internally that we really try to compensate for? Or try to force others or coerce others into um, dealing with because we don't want to deal with it. I've heard that so many times. Like, I'm masculine because I want a more masculine man to. I want a man to be more masculine than me, so that I can now be feminine. Why are you going with that roundabout? Again, feminine energy, but it's like misguided. Um, but I wanted to read from the verse prior to the one that is in the Anu way, which is Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1. Talking about several women grabbing hold of one man. And what was interesting is the chapter before it, Isaiah chapter 3, verses 10 through 12. And it says, say ye to the righteous, that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. Cause and effect. You'll eat the fruit of your doings. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given him. It's not talking about I will smite thee. The reward of his hands shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. So again, it's speaking to, now, like this time is now, so desperate times calls for desperate measures. And that desperation could cause one to make decisions that they may not naturally make, and again, we're in those times now. You don't have the luxury to go around making demands of people because it's sort of like this whole phase of feminism or this wave of feminism, it's sort of like cash. It's only a matter of time before that inflation kicks in and you really start to feel it. It's like, oh, like, y'all take cash? I ain't got no money on my card. Yeah. So now you got to find a way to pay that bill, or sleep outside. Um, Sovereign each says, stay from around me equals leave me alone. Please leave me alone. Pots and pans beating in the background. Leave me alone. Yeah, find the bottle and metal phone percussion. um, Chief Yuya says, you needn't chase who you have earned. If a woman earns, not deserves a man of appropriate value, she need only choose the right way. Pursuits happen usually when punching above your own weight class. Yeah, Chief did a segment about that maybe a couple of years back now. The title was "You Get What You Deserve" or "How to Get What You Deserve." And again, it's just like the verse that I just read. You eat the fruit of your heart. Based on what it is that you put out, the causes that you put out, right? Desperate times cause for desperate measures. The causes that you put out pull in the effects the appropriate effects. And if you're not cultivating yourself in your femininity, if you're not cultivating yourself um, righteously, then how are you going to expect to, attract a man? You know what I mean? And it's interesting because it's almost um, the dangerous notion that opposites attract as opposed to the idea that complements attract. You're trying to be the opposite of what you want. You're walking, running around town, bratty, um, neighborhood bicycle. You're doing all of these things, and you're expecting a righteous man to come and just clean you up. How you don't know how annoying that is when those are your options and you got to sift through it. But if you're really righteous, you're going to sift through it, and the courtship process helps with that sifting. Not just going through putting in papers, but just knowing the process in and of itself is like you ain't built for that. You ain't even built for that. Let alone what you're supposed to be doing after the process. The process just helps, to select and to help us to get to know each other. To say, okay, this one I'm interested in, and I want to see if, I want to see if this company is the right fit for me. I want to see if I can join this household and actually manage and multiply what this man has built. But if you're going through this whole thing and you're like, I'm going to just hold out and, do as much as I can to enjoy myself before I actually settle down, you're going to be left out in the cold, and you're going to be banging on random doors, hoping that someone answers. You know, Usually we say willfully, but you're actually hoping. The anxiety of your um, encroaching consequences, is going to catch up with you. So we're in those times, right? And this is why the courtship process should be followed with exactness and to preserve the divinity of all involved. Um, which is another thing, right? Just starting the courtship process isn't enough. You know, go through um, go through the tenets of the courtship process daily. Even chief segment courtship versus dating, you're not really going through this trying to woo someone into um, agreeing to a matehood. You're actually looking at what is lacking, or even where you can augment this other person's rise towards their divinity. How can I help this person to stand upright in all of their movements? During that Shabbat, I also pulled from the 14 keys, talking about that horizontal and that vertical, and making sure that they are always like aligned. Your divine experience is walking hand in hand with your human experience. But as soon as we decide to lock, we foolishly decide to lock arms with people who are um, basically do what happens with that plant that I mentioned earlier. That cocoa leaf, or even with sugar. Like you could look at fructose, high fructose corn syrup. Why is it high fructose corn syrup? What was wrong with regular fructose? You know, but I can't produce that chemically, so I need to get it from an external source. I can't move, or I don't want to move in a more holistic fashion. I want a quick fix, so I'm going to look for someone who's going to supply that quick fix. But there's going to be a deficit somewhere else because you're dealing with something that is disproportionate. Our crew says, especially the bikes with the flywheel noise. Many do not appreciate the quality of an Anu woman's quietness. That is like the shade of a tree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, super cool. Chief Yuya says, if a sister were humble and truthful about her need for covering, I'd be receptive regardless of my lack of desire. But that's not an invite for every old decimated hag seeking a Captain Sable. Yeah, yeah, and that's another aspect of not being able to face rejection. You don't want to be honest with yourself unless you're sure that the other person is going to accept you regardless. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. That's just like, I'm not humble enough to say that I've made mistakes in my life, and I'm going to be vulnerable to the truth that you're not obligated to accept me now that I've been honest, about my past, you know, because I did it. That's the thing. I did it, and I deserve what comes from that type of decision. It's not like my experience, like life happened to me. I decided everything that happened in my life, whether I walk through it blindly or not. Where I am now is where I put myself. That's a very difficult statement for some people to make because you can't take that rejection. You can't take that sense of, okay, I effed up and I failed and I need to not only deal with the karmic debt that I've accrued from the decision that I made, but I also need to seek righteous guidance now because obviously my decision making skills haven't been the best, And that's not just for women, men learn from learning. Men learn from trial and error, and from men who are further along on the path. You hear Akizak say that often. You heard Chief say that as well. Men learn from other men. Yeah, it got me. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Yeah, you see, as soon as I said men are important. Okay, we back. Nice. Yeah, as soon as I said men are important, and pull out the plug for the Wi-Fi. Yeah, jive turkeys. Okay, so yeah, men are important. You know, if you don't have men in society, you don't have structure, and we've seen the effects of it. You know, we're in those times. Yeah, it wasn't the neighbor's Wi-Fi. It's something else. Yeah, this island Wi-Fi. Um, so let's see. Well, some froze. Neighborhood always playing. Yeah, yeah. The neighbor's Wi-Fi probably went out too. Chief US says it's not difficult. We already have a pull towards each other. The only obstruct is our own egos. We are too proud for rejection. We think we should have more than we really should. Lies and fear. Very true, Chief. We need the code to the big house. Yeah, we still in there. You know, I have returned. I am he. He is I. Um, yeah, I keep it on. Yeah, cruise through my lifeline. Yeah, man. So Sister Deidre says being out in the wilderness for so long will have one punching above middle class, thinking they deserve what they don't. Yeah. So who wants to raise some children, travel around the world, and work until their vision fails and their heads pound? Nobody? Any takers? Yeah, I'm scrolling to see. No takers? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. That sounds like a good life. But here's the but. The little but is coming. And there's no reason for a but. No, a but is so not unnatural, but it just rolls off the tongue. There's no reason for a but. Raise children, travel around the world, work until your vision fails and your head pounds. Like, where's the but? There is no but. You know, yeah, it seems like no takers. Yeah, but yeah, traveling around the world, raising children. I'm down. You know, what is there to? What else is there to do, really? But that butt again. That butt is too. That's too natural. That slides out like a silent fart. I gotta remove that from my vocabulary. That's troublesome. Yeah, yeah, right. It takes humility to be vulnerable. Put yourself out there for a possible no. Females have not been cultivated beyond ego and a guaranteed yes. Yeah, but you know what? We're all raised in a society. It's my oh, there we go again. Certain buzzwords, and I see that screen flash black. Yeah, but we're all raised to be like females. If you think about it, who benefits from the way the system raises us to be? Go to school, get your education, and go get a job. You know, it's changing now, but that entrepreneurial spirit is still tethered to a system that's trying to game you, right? And that's where those buts come from. You know, if you're not standing really firm on that conviction, the butt is gonna get you every time. You know, um, and my Precious says, yeah, Western culture sets such an illusion of happiness, but that vision has failed. and everyone is sick beyond headaches. Yeah, but still, we choose that we choose that illusion. All of us go through a period in our life, at least once in our life. That I know everyone who's in this room has gone through that period where you're like, this can't be it. This can't be what I'm on this planet for. And then the butt slides in. Or we might get fancy, like give a presses and say, nonetheless, you know, yeah, but nonetheless, however, all of that takes you off of that right path. You know, I'll do it, but Chief Yuya says yes. That he said, not yes. Chief Yuya says, well, that's what I do now. It ain't easy being free. Family building is a precursor to nation building. Unless you're um, on doing it to provide more batteries for the matrix. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I was speaking about earlier about that entrepreneurial spirit. It's being nurtured, but it's still steering you and looping you and plugging you right back into that system. You know, it reminds me of well, I remember it from cartoons when I was younger, when it was like the telephone operator. You know, they just have the switchboard and just be pulling stuff, you know, and plugging them in. I don't know what they'd be doing, but they I get disconnecting and reconnecting people, and it's sort of like that. You know, you put it out there that you want to do something, but you're plugged into a channel that ultimately plugs you back into the matrix. Um, Our crew says, keep stabbing until everything I see is my reality. In my reality is a reflection of the purpose that Yah sent me with and its expansive force. Amarandi says, I'm with it. I'm a nomad at heart. Yeah, yeah, the nomad piece. You got to work too. A lot of people claim nomadic lifestyle because they don't really want to work to establish anything. Um, Sister Kashia says it takes humility to be destroyed and corrected in order to be be properly trained for mateship. I guess is what you said. Got to pull out the old secular methods and align with righteousness. And Chiguya says when you move, it's easier to see who can really mate with you. It's like Secret Service escorts. They drive really fast to easily distinguish between their caravan and who shouldn't be near them. Yeah, that's true. Ima Precious says, yes, I agree. We're saying yes to the proposal for failed visions and headaches as it is freedom. Aki Ramon says, sounds like an extraction. Um, could you clarify that, brother? How does it sound like an extraction? I got all my wisdom teed out, so I think something different when I hear extraction. TG says, how many of you are moving with swift deliberateness now? How many of you are just waiting in the shallow end, waiting for something good to float your way? Are any of you reaching out to grab mates? Yeah. I'm trying to do me dirty. Yeah, Chief said it. I didn't say it this time. But yeah, how many of you are actually moving with swift deliberateness now? How many of you are just waiting in the shallow end, waiting for something good to float your way? Okay, Abu Cruz says the dark water and the ocean floor view. TV says then all you fist pumping guesses and with power high fives should be showing improving by now. Yeah. So put the proof in the chat, or in the comment section. What are you doing now? You know, put it in the comment section. Even if it's not in the chat right now during this live, we always want to greet those who come in and, view it a little later. Put it in the chat. You know, what are you doing now, or are you moving now? If you're saying that you want to move in that way, you know, and I said that I'm with it, so I have to respond, you know, moving with swift deliberateness. Um, I gotta say, I gotta ask myself if I can move faster, or if there's certain things that I can do now that I'm not doing to the best of my ability. And there are, you know, I can definitely study more, work more on the financial aspect as well. You know, how how deliberate are my movements? And she says she's moving with swift deliberateness. After Chief said most of the chat is silent on this. Yeah, my deliberateness is is weird because it's still getting back to zero. Like it's getting back to where in my mind I think I should have been at this point had I not procrastinated, you know, and made the decisions that I made that get me to where I am now. But yeah, I'm making moves and deliberate steps, but they're evolving over time. You know, that's that part again. Silent thought. They are evolving over time, you know, and each revolution or each cycle that I go through, it makes me realize how far behind I actually am, you know, and that level of desperation gets, you know, that much deeper. Peanut oil to be made. You talking about our groups? Peanut oil. Yeah. And yeah, were you talking about a tooth extraction, Aki Vermont? Y'all leaving me hanging there. She asked this question, I put it up. It's like we ain't talking about the pond no more. All right, so your professor says, while I've made huge strides, I still need to move more swiftly and push beyond fear, uh, ever the more. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's it. Yeah, moving beyond that fear is definitely the point where we start resisting um, our progress. Because notice when we were talking about things that didn't really require anything of us, the chat was moving. But now when we're talking about actually making real progress, chat slowed down. Everyone has to really think about their answers because you realize that you may not have thought about this, or you may, like I do sometimes, you may have been distracting yourself from things because there's a headache involved. TPS says those who are ready to run with wolves take the sheepskin off as it's only slowing you down. Leave the poop butts and the silent farts. You didn't say silent farts. Leave the poop butts in Babylon and go find your ALX who've been scattered throughout the nations. Yeah, man. Abu Cruz says, I have not been deliberate. Abba NGC says, I have decided to move faster and more effectively. There was a lot of time lost due to procrastination. Yeah, man. You know, and these are the parts where we really need to be deliberating on as well. Um, oh, the extraction was in reference to Chief's statement about the Secret Service. All right, I got you. Yeah, I was thinking about wisdom teeth. Uh, Impressive says deliberateness requires deliberation and decisiveness and action. When Yah has given a divine vision for a mate, it is just a matter of humility and time, not fear and apprehension. Ima Alin says, Ken, I'm moving with deliberate. Um, Chief US says it's okay for brothers to speak on their harem moves amongst each other, as those manly brag rights. Motivate each other towards reclaiming our royal manhood through the required work, right? Through the required work. Sister Shanda Joy says, my steps have been swift in the wrong direction. I've been more deliberate still not enough though, right? Yeah, comparing yourself to where you think you should be is tricky when you're not being deliberate, because there's not a clear, definite goal to as to where you need to be. So a lot of times when we get asked these very direct questions, we kind of stutter because we realize that sort of that deliberate or that deliberation hasn't really been hashed out, or we haven't really been honest with ourselves about where we're going, or the fact that we still have a very foggy idea of where we need to go. And that fogginess comes from our alignment with secular culture, and not necessarily alignment with where it is that we know we're supposed to be going. Where we've been know we're supposed to be going, but we're afraid of it, so we try to distract ourselves. You know, CPS says, sisters make with a righteous patriarch. I established the covering initiative and placed you with men. You didn't have to lift a finger. Many of you have passed your 12-month mark. Rise up. Yeah, yeah. So Sister Kashia says, in order to enjoy the benefits of the kingdom of Anu, we must be doers of this great knowledge, not just orators of it. So I do have a question. After this year of the covering initiative and seeing the changes that you've made, what's the issue now? Because the often cited issue was, I'm not prepared for it, or I have so much baggage. But you've had a year with righteous covering, giving you direct light, um, based upon agreed cultural values, which is very hard to come by, to have a group of people who actually agree on the same cultural values. It's easier to come by a group of people who feign agreement with cultural values and try to hide their filth within it. And that happens a lot more often than we like to agree, and then more often than we like to admit. But it also happens a lot more often than we should allow, because we can see better, we know better. So if the people that you're around aren't really your ALX, and they're not moving the same way that you're moving, are you gonna move like that caravan, and you're just gonna keep charging full speed ahead at the actual goal or the actual target, or are you gonna keep slowing down and risk moving amongst people who don't mean you any well? They're just riding alongside you, looking for a meal, basically. So Sister Kashia said, women, we gotta be deliberate and reach out for righteous headship. Imma Lane says, I will move swiftly and deliberately. Right. So when you're talking about reaching out and grabbing mates, right, which is what this verse was speaking to, um, like what's stopping you? Point blank, what's stopping you? And I'll end on that note. If you're really serious about making that move, for everyone who said yes, 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 and you're not just saying it because it feels good to fantasize about it, but you're actually committed to that headache at the end. Aki Vermont says, I'm intentionally positioning and preparing to be mated. All right, we'll see how it goes in a couple of months, when these homesteads start popping up. But yeah, man, it's about that time. Yeah, but seriously though, again. But seriously, consider what it is that is holding you back, what's weighing you down and keeping you from moving with that swift deliberateness and that lightness, that levity that allows you to just move. you know, and get rid of the buts. Yeah, preparing and gutter. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Vermont got the hookup on homesteading tips. We'll see in a couple of months when the homestead is there. You know, homesteading is more than just property. Yeah, man. But that has been Shema Anu. You know, yeah, of course, Sister Kashia, Shalom, like and share. We have a copy of the Anu Way that is free. You know, it's for free, as Sister Deidre would say, and it's right in the description box below, so you can always copy that and read through it, deliberate on it, you know, share it with your people, and most importantly, actually crucially, apply it. You know, apply. And as you experience changes in your life and improvements in your life, you're gonna realize that this is an upward spiral. And the more you improve, the it's like, you know, climbing a tree. The higher you go, the more you can see, and the more you realize that the view of your world has been expanded. You know, yeah, man. So give thanks to you all, and just get rid of the lukewarmness. You know, like Chief said, I'm about to struggle. You lukewarm, lukewarm off my. I'm gonna shug all of you lukewarm off like my nephew Atlas. Um, yeah, Shabbat shalom all. Peace to you. We'll see you in the fourth.